With Nintendo's first-party Switch offerings, their DLC plans have been well received. From ARM's additions to the character roster to Splatoon 2's near constant stream of new content, we really like how Nintendo has evolved DLC in the Switch generation. But with the recent release of Mario Tennis Aces and their decision to push all unlockable characters into a DLC program, we're beginning to reconsider a bit. Gabe, how do you feel about how Nintendo handles DLC on Switch, past, present, and future?
Past is the first thing I'll speak on. They've done a super admirable job with Splatoon 2. That game has completely transformed from what it was at launch to what it is now. There's a lot of new additions. There's been tons of weapons. The Splatfest, while not technically DLC, they're more event-based. I'm still counting that in there. They did a phenomenal job with that. ARMS, it being a fighting game, the addition to the roster every few months of characters like Lollipop and the company that followed was all very well done as well. I didn't mind that whatsoever. It did a good job of trying to keep that game supported for as long as possible with the audience that they had. Mario Tennis is the first time that I'm taking a little bit of issue with it. And there's a combination of factors. First of all, we know what the characters are going to be, so some of that hype is kind of just died because of the data miners, and that's not Nintendo's fault. But if we didn't know what these characters were, I feel like I would be more excited. But since we seem to know what the roadmap is going forward for the foreseeable future with this game, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't like a little bit bummed by how this is going. I am sad that there isn't any unlockables in the game. I wish there was. So yeah, Mario Tennis for me is the first misstep they have with this.
Yeah, it's a bit of an oddity, because I didn't really feel this way about ARMS, and you bring up the point about our pre-knowledge of what's going down, and as you mentioned, the data mine can't really be helped. But they do telegraph it via the adventure mode by the characters that you play against, and it is a bit odd that none of them are unlocked along the way. It is a bit odd that the roster is smaller than past Mario Tennis games, so even if you didn't know the roadmap, you'd be a little bit concerned or confused of why these characters aren't there. So event-based gaming, DLC-based gaming is really cool, especially when it's free. It's hard to complain about new content, because it not only adds to your game, but it keeps players coming back. And I think that longevity and elongating the player base is something that's super important for every company, Nintendo included. And it's worked really well, as you mentioned, with Splatoon 2, and I even like how they handled Breath of the Wild, and we were discussing off camera how every first-party game almost has had a DLC plan, which is so interesting for Nintendo. And yet with Mario Tennis Aces, it feels odd, and there becomes this sort of schism of like, would you rather have more content on cartridge and it's all up front, or would you rather have this extended plan, right? This tournament offering where they're going to be giving you a character and an outfit or one or the other every month for the foreseeable future. Like, that's really cool from a 2018 gaming standpoint. Nintendo may not have the greatest online, they may not have huge open world games with 1 million players, but they do a great job with Splatoon and with even Mario Tennis Aces of incentivizing return to the game months down the line. I like that a lot. It just feels odd, and I look going forward, how will this impact Smash Bros? Will they hold back certain characters? And that's like a tale as old time discussion, right? Are these things added post? Are they specifically saved? I don't really want to get into that aspect of it. It's more of, has Nintendo's philosophy of sort of service-based additions to the game, is it in the best interest of the gamer?
I mean, probably, right? Like, you want to incentivize people to continue playing, right? Especially with Mario Tennis, because it's a sports game. Like, these matches don't change drastically from match to match. It's just the person you're playing against. And I mean, and the same can be said for every multiplayer game, so I don't want to single out Mario Tennis Aces in that manner. But it's very limited as to what you're doing. You're throwing the ball back and forth. So having a reason to come do these tournaments and participate and try to do well is a good thing. Right, I just wish that it was like a little bit more. To me, if there was unlockable characters, like in the game as of now, even maybe if some of the current roster was like locked up, I personally, and this is a personal thing, I didn't like that you could play as every single character right off the bat. Like, I wish some of that was unlockable by doing something in the game. That's maybe just a little bit more of a traditional like gamer standpoint. Who knows? But I like having something to work towards. And
right,
but it's such a double-edged sword because, like I said, you want to incentivize these tournaments so that people participate, and this is the only way I can think of to do it. Like, characters and outfits are probably what people want the most in Aces, so lock that behind that. Make sure people participate if they want some of these characters. Like, I can see why they're doing it. Unfortunately, it's just not what I would have wanted.
Yeah, I think at first blush, it's like, okay, more upfront is better, but I do think that the plan to bring gamers back and to keep the player base really fertile is in the best interest of the gamer. So I do think, maybe contrary to the knee-jerk reaction, it is a better choice, and it ultimately prolongs these games, extends your replayability, and gives you a reason to come back to the game, and gives you a player pool to play with and against when you do come back to the game. I think where Mario Tennis Aces has a misstep is in the progression that you mentioned isn't really there, right? Because Splatoon 2, despite having a steady stream of content, it feels fine because, one, there's so much in the base game, and two, you are unlocking things as you go throughout that base game. And then there's also the issue of showing your hand early. And these are great lessons to learn, I think, for not only Nintendo and not only other games, but for us as well, just in how we frame and how we critique games going forward. ARMS does not have you fight against Lola Pop and then say, oh, well, maybe she's coming later, right? That isn't even shown to you or unveiled to you until DLC is ready. So even though ARMS was a game that, like, people were pretty vocal about, like, they wish it had more content, there wasn't a huge uproar when DLC was unveiled. In fact, it was received as like hey, I'm glad they're adding Party Crash. I'm glad that they're adding these characters. I'm glad that they're bringing in new stages and more elements, because it felt like it was building upon a foundation, a pre-set foundation. Whereas Mario Tennis Aces, I think they made a misstep in, hey, look, you can play Kamek. Hey, look, we already have an icon for Blooper. Hey, look, we already have a super for this character, which then says, why isn't this in the game? Why isn't that unlockable? Why isn't there progression?
Yeah, see, because look, the perfect solution, right? Since these characters are already in the game and you play against them throughout the adventure mode, when you beat them, you should be able to play as them, and then still bring in new characters through tournament stuff, but make them completely new, like something completely separate from these. Like, that would have been the perfect thing. I don't think anyone is going to have much to complain about when they do that. But like you said, when they're locking off some of these characters and saying, hey, you'll get them, just not now. Like, I'm like, oh, but they're kind of ready. Like, I'm playing against them.
That's a great point of, like, the surprise factor, the newness factor, being able to drop that trailer for a new ARMS character, right? Or for a new Splatoon 2 stage, or for, you know, even the Mario Odyssey Balloon World update. Like, it's fresh, it feels exciting. Now we basically know, forget the data mine, we know based on adventure mode who's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, holy crap, this is so cool, Kamek is in the game, no way. Well, we already fought Kamek, and we already know that they have him, you know, he is, quote, playable in there from the CPU perspective, so why not just flip him over to the roster side? So I think this may be a Mario Tennis Aces specific issue, and I still would say that I like Nintendo's idea and plan and their focus on event-based gaming, their focus on extending the life cycle of these titles. Let's look forward. That's past, that's present. Super Mario Party, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. How do we see DLC going for those two titles?
Well, that's another tricky thing, right? Because Smash in particular is already so fully featured. It has a ton of characters. So, and a ton of stages too. Like, something like that where it's the sheer number of the stages and characters already available, it's a little bit overbearing. I said that to you, like, at E3. I was like, oh man, I wonder if, like, people that are, like, new to Smash, like, they're gonna be, like, a little lost by so much content. And of course you probably want to supplement your most popular games with DLC. It's just how.
Right. And I think that Smash is fully featured enough that, say Sakurai got to 3 additional characters, right? Ridley, Inkling, and one more. I don't think you'd feel gypped. So then if they decided to bring in a season pass or some sort of updates where they had, hey, we're going to have 4 new characters, it wouldn't feel like an offense, right? It would feel awesome that, okay, now we have things to look forward to. And I very much think they will do DLC for Smash Ultimate, regardless of how many new characters Sakurai reveals between now and December. Because if we look back, nearly every single first-party Switch game has had additions or DLC. 1-2 Switch is the lone exception that we've found where nothing really happened. But Fire Emblem Warriors, Splatoon 2, ARMS, all of these games had additions. And even some of the ports found new content along with their release. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze with the Funky Kong mode. We're getting some Mario Odyssey stages in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. So you're seeing Nintendo embrace this nearly across the board. So why not for Smash? Even though Mario Odyssey DLC isn't exactly what we wanted, they have brought outfits, they have brought Balloon World. They are making efforts in that direction. Super Mario Party, Gabe, is an interesting one because it's not a game that you traditionally would associate with DLC, but I would find it odd at this point if they didn't include some sort of incentive to keep coming back, especially given the inclusion of an online mode.
Yeah, in the conversation prior to recording, I told you, like, hey, I don't think Mario Party gets DLC. Like, that's not what that game is. That is much, it's for local play. You know, the online features that it is going to have are going to be separate. It's not going to be the fully featured game mode that we all want. Of course, they can add more, I guess, through DLC. It's just party games like that and DLC just it doesn't click in my head. Like, how do you like do this? Like, for me, the audience that's buying Mario Party probably isn't super into like, you know, purchasing DLC. That's a very like gamer thing. But yeah,
if it's free DLC though,
yeah, I mean, that's a valid
can't really
point.
reject that. And we have seen with Kirby Star Allies, which obviously is not a party game, but it is a local focused game. They are adding DLC in the form of new allies, right? So you could do something as simple as that. We have seen allied characters in the Mario Party trailer. They could do something as simple as adding a few new ones of those, or maybe bolstering the online mode with a few more mini games. Something as simple as character skins. I think because of the history that nearly every first-party Switch game has DLC, I kind of expect it at this point, and I kind of like it. Mario Tennis Aces aside, it's, as you mentioned, sort of the first weird one, but I would really hope that Mario Party has DLC, even if it is something as simple as a skin or as cool as a whole new board. I think going forward, Nintendo has kind of said, like, this is a priority for us, and ultimately, I think they have done a really excellent job with it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally wouldn't be surprised by DLC for Mario Party. As you mentioned, like, them not doing it with that title and 1-2 Switch, those being like the only omissions, because everything else, including the ports, you know, Funky Kong isn't DLC, but again, it's added content. Same with the Toad Treasure Tracker stuff. Nintendo does seem to be trying to keep people playing their games somehow. And if you already purchased the game, purchase it again. There's new stuff. Yeah, I mean, but look, I think we're in a great position if Mario Tennis Aces is the first thing we consider a misfire as far as their DLC practices go, right? And even this, like, it's not like bad necessarily.
I think we should maybe recategorize it as it's not the DLC that's a misfire. It's more the original rollout that is the misfire, because the DLC is actually one of the coolest plans Nintendo's ever put in place. Having online tournaments that incentivize you to play and to play well while still dumping that character to everyone a little bit later. It's like the best of both worlds. You get free DLC, you're incentivized to play, you get it early if you play well and participate, and you still get it if you don't. So it's a brilliant plan, and it's a great way to bring in their style of sort of esports competitive gaming to an online mode. I think it's brilliant. It's the fact that the progression and the content rollout of the actual game, how they reveal it, how they show their hand, how they, you know, don't include really any progression into a game that seems perfect for some level of unlockables. That is maybe where the mistake lies, and I don't know that we can blame it on the DLC.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And like I said, it would have been great if all of these characters that are already done were just part of the game and, you know, unlock them through progression, and then additional characters were coming through this exact same manner, because like you said, it is a brilliant way to do it, and it fits perfectly for this game. So, yeah.
I'm also curious to see if they have any sort of events for Smash Bros. Like, that would be really cool to have some sort of either tournaments or weird challenges or things that, like Splatoon 2, Splatfest, like Arms Party Crash, like these tournaments for Mario Tennis Aces, would be ways for gamers to sort of unite around a date and a time and a weekend or whatnot for Ultimate in December. That would be super cool. But all in all, Nintendo's DLC, it's firing on almost all cylinders. And we want to know how you feel about their new plans and how you feel about Mario Tennis Aces, and if it bothers you that these characters are seen before you get to play them, and how you hope they go forward with Super Mario Party and with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and their future first-party titles. So definitely let us know in the comments down below your thoughts, your take. We'd love to hear them. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch and its games. Follow us on Twitter and Discord. There's links in the description down below. And until next time, everybody, thanks again for watching. A fantastic day. For myself and Gabe, Switch Force out.